Some predicted these officers would turn on each other, and Desmond Mills did as much today, describing the Scorpion unit as one he was trying to get out of. Mills took a plea deal in the federal charges and agreed to testify for the prosecution. Mills saying, "I wish I could have stopped the punches. And no, I'm a part of that." He said Haley frequently did not have his camera on, and when he asked him about it, he said, "F that." He said Haley and Martin were called the Smash Brothers because of their use of force, saying they would get hostile with citizens. Mills said he pepper sprayed Tyree Nichols even though he was not a threat. In tears, Mills said, "I made his child fatherless, knowing sorry can't bring him back. I pray his child has everything he needs growing up." Court wrapped up early this afternoon around 4 o'clock. No explanation why. Desmond Mills is expected back on the stand Wednesday morning.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. The man said that these two here are called the Smash Bros, right? And for those of us like myself who have been around a while and know a little bit about Super Mario and Nintendo, that's really not funny, right? I mean, look, here's the thing. This guy is testifying against these guys. And to me, I think he's doing it because he was too much of a coward in the beginning when he was part of this Scorpion unit to speak out. And now he's too much of a coward to stand up with these guys and try to wiggle out of it. So he just wants to turn them over, turn them in, and maybe hope to gain back some of his conscience that he lost from participating in the murder of the man that they murdered. So he just pepper sprayed him. Well, I tell you what, if you're getting your head kicked in and somebody's pepper spraying you, that's going to do a hell of a lot to kind of uh, daze you and mess you up more in the midst of that. So he did a lot. It's not just, oh, I just pepper sprayed him. No, you participated in the murder. So you're hoping to get a deal now. So now you're turning in this information. Nonetheless, Smash Bros were mean to the citizens. He tried to get off, but he couldn't do anything. He tried to get transferred, but he couldn't. There was nowhere for him to go, right? This Officer Mills. He's sorry that he made someone's child fatherless, and he hopes that that child has everything that they need, that they will have everything that they need. Well, that's a hell of a hope. After you've participated in taking out someone's father for no apparent reason, right? For no valid reason, let's say. And being as though this happened in Memphis, in one of the more high poverty areas, the person who they took out was black, of no, real repute of any sorts, not a musician, not an athlete. I'm suspecting that he didn't have $1 million life insurance policy there, Mr. Mills. So fair to say that child is not going to have everything that he needs. Okay, that was just something you said yet again, to hopefully gain back some of the conscience that you lost. For us, what are some lessons that we can learn here from this? Number one, I'll say this. These guys were getting away with this for the period of time that they did, in large part due to people not saying anything, feeling frightened, feeling afraid, feeling terrified. One of the charges that they had here, uh, I believe, was official oppression, if I'm not mistaken. And these guys were literally just running around like terrorists, putting fear as a weapon, um, in the hearts and minds of citizens, of people who live in that area. Now, that is why I say again and again, in many of my peers in this space say, folks, we got to speak up. We got to at least say something, right? I know that we're all like, oh, well, nothing's going to change and nothing matters and all is lost and let's just prepare for the end times, right? I get all that to some extent. Obviously, I don't fully believe that. I do believe that there is something that we can do. And if nothing else, we can help to stave off and push back some of the tyrannical overreach that's coming our way by just speaking out, right? By just saying no, I will not comply. So obviously, in a situation where these guys clearly don't care about the law, they're clearly not interested in preserving your and my rights. The oath that they took clearly was a formality and didn't mean anything. There will come a day where they're held accountable for that oath, and then we'll see how they feel then. Until then, we're on this side of the scenario, and we need to figure out and strategize how are we going to deal with tyrannical officers like these guys here, the Smash Bros. Well, number one, I say that when you are in a scenario when you're pushing for your rights and you know that you are in the right, there comes a point in the exchange where if you see that these officers are willing to do physical harm to you, illegally detain you, perhaps even frame you for things that you didn't do. A couple of things that we can do: we can record our interactions with police. I highly recommend that we all start recording more often. Obviously, we don't plan to have interactions with police. Most of us don't wake up like, I think today will be a good day to get into it with a police officer, right? But we do have phones, so we can get in the habit of recording that. Um, I also believe that being cordial, being decent, being respectful is a powerful weapon when dealing with tyrannical officers. Being as though that everything is being recorded, and it really goes a long way for a neutral observer later to make it look very clear who the aggressor is. And they know that. So they like to try to pull strings and play things in a way where you appear to be the aggressor, where I appear to be the aggressor. So being well mannered and well spoken, being in control of your emotions, exercising a high degree of emotional intelligence, being in control of your tone and your mannerisms is a very powerful tool in helping us to navigate situations when encountering tyrannical officers. Okay. So there's a testing that usually occurs back and forth between citizens and police. My advice would be aware of the surrounding environment. Be aware of any limits that you may be pressing. There are things in this life worth sacrificing our lives for. I don't believe a traffic citation is one of them. So I would say there does come a point where we can live to fight it out in court. Not everything needs to be fought out on the side of the road. These guys, although they behave as such, at times are not judge, jury, and executioner. Okay, we do have other aspects of the system that we can use to our advantage. Although we're not guaranteed justice in those areas as well, we do want to be cognizant and aware of how we're moving in order to navigate these situations to escape with our lives in hand, and preferably safe, unscathed, unviolated. Sometimes these guys are all roided up, they got ego involved, and all it takes is a comment here or there about this or that, and they're 0 to 60 in 1 second. In that case, um, I was going to say it should be recorded, but as we see here, he asked one of the Smash Bros about if his camera is being recorded, to which he said, "F that." Like, really? You don't turn your camera on? Well, no. And I hope that doesn't come as a surprise to us. So we have to ask them, is this being recorded? Right? That would give us legal precedence to say, all right, I've at least reminded them about the recording. Therefore, they should have at least checked. So that's going to at least tip the scale further in our favor right there. Asking them, is this being recorded? Having our own recording also as well is powerful. There is a service out there called Attorney Shield. I've just recently heard about it. I don't actually have it, but that's an option as well. If you get pulled over, you call this attorney, and that attorney will answer all questions on your behalf. It's on a video call. Something like that is great if you can afford it. If not, again, hands in plain sight. Although these are not always traffic situations, a lot of times these encounters do occur in traffic, but it doesn't have to be. It can occur at any place, and you don't have to necessarily be terrified where you can't move your hands and this and that. I do think it would be prudent though to be aware that these guys are terrified. These guys are ill trained. These guys are combative. They have an agenda that they're pushing. And oftentimes that agenda is not the enforcement and protection of your and my rights, unfortunately. So there we have it, folks. These guys are going to go away for a long time for sure behind this one. Too much of a national outcry. Even the guy who's testifying against them, he's definitely still going away. And when they get where they're going, the guys upstate, from wherever they are, they'll probably wind up in federal prison. So they may be moved around. But there's a second tier of justice in these prison systems, and they get a hold of people's paperwork, and they're glad to continue to hand out punishment when they can get a hold of people who they feel the justice system, quote unquote, didn't do justice, and they continue to hand it out within those walls, in their own, according to their own laws, statutes, and codes that they have there. So we'll see how much of the Smash Bros. The only thing that the Smash Bros won't be smashing anything. I presume they'll be being smashed, right, in more ways than one, if you catch my drift. So there that is, folks. And remember, if these changes that we talk about, these changes that we'd like to see, are to be, that it's up to you and me.